What are you still doing here, you mutt? No one likes ya. Not even your mates. They just hang out with you because you gave them a bunch of free shit, and even then you still hog most of it for yourself. Dude, just go home. You're scaring all the girls. Come on. Scott Morrison is amazing. Truly incredible. Usually when you lose the post of Prime Minister, you achieve a level of goodwill and respect amongst the electorate. It really seems Scott Morrison has done everything in his power to stay hated. It has to be pathological at this point. He just must love people detesting him. After the 22 election, the Australian election study found that Scott Morrison was the most unpopular major party leader since the Australian National University began that poll in 1987. To fix this, all he had to do was disappear, pop his head out every now and then, scull a beer at a Sharks game every 5 years, and everyone would have forgotten that he went to Hawaii. Or maybe not forgot, just changed their perspective on it. Dude, Scomo's so loose. You remember in the fires he went off and got munted in Hawaii? Dead set legend. My favourite president. But instead he's the guy the nation accidentally invited to the party who just won't leave, and he's just getting more obnoxious as the night goes on, beginning by boasting about something that everyone else finds embarrassing. Yeah, in case you forgot, that's how the secret ministry scandal story was broken. Simon Benson and Jeff Chambers, two of Morrison's biggest sycophants, broke the story in their book Plagued, which was basically a hagiography of Scott Morrison. Then, to their and Morrison's shock, people weren't too happy about Scomo becoming the secret dictator of Australia. Hey, I prefer the title Macro, Micro, Middle Manager. And check this out. They were finalists for the Walkley's Scoop of the Year. If I just outed my mate for committing tax fraud by accident, drunkenly boasting, you reckon I could win that? Depends on who the mate is, I guess. Well, I do know a little something about Smiling Friends creator Michael Cusack. He killed a guy. Nuts, hey? And never wears shoes. Go watch my video, man. We never show his feet. Then there was the Robo-Debt Royal Commission. You can watch my video here if you want more details on that, but that was another humiliation fest for Morrison. It found that Scott Morrison allowed Cabinet to be misled. It also found that he gave untrue evidence to the Commission when he claimed that he was told that income averaging was an established practice. That is a pretty big deal. A Royal Commission finding a former Prime Minister giving untrue evidence. Almost as big of a deal as Scomo's group chat he made with Australia's cricket captain Pat Cummins and former coach Justin Langer, calling it, how good's this? The Legends. But what the Royal Commission didn't take into account is that Scomo, the self-proclaimed legend, still had his get-out-of-jail-free card. I'll reject that. And yet he's still in Parliament, hanging around, ruining the otherwise great vibes.
Sit down, shut the fuck up. Order! Order!
But you can definitely tell he's at least been following self-help principles, levelling up in life, getting a bunch of side hustles, at first landing a gig at the Hudson Institute on the inaugural board of advisors of their China Centre, chaired by Mike Pompeo, the former CIA director that floated killing Julian Assange. How is that even allowed? Imagine if whilst still in Parliament, an MP went to work for a Chinese think tank and the chair of the board was an ex-Chinese politician that plotted to kill Australian citizens. Imagine that. I mean, it'd be pretty funny. I'd imagine the Hudson Institute's China Centre would have something to say about that. All they do is shit on and push for a war with China. Look, there are a lot of good reasons to diss China. Instagram Reels are better than TikToks for one. But to borrow a phrase that could be used on TikTok a lot, I'm not sure, I'm not on it enough, but China are living rent-free in the Hudson Institute's herd. Look at the shit they ride. Xi Jinping, hater of God. That's like one instance where it's totally acceptable to go all Reddit atheist, but only if you're Xi Jinping. Wouldn't they have to believe in God to hate him? I just found this article when I was sussing out where Scomo works. Damn, it gives you an idea of the level of intellectual rigour that takes place at the Hudson Institute, doesn't it? It claims that the CCP is rewriting the Bible, and in the Chinese Bible, Jesus is a badass, crooked cop Tarantino character. In the non-Chinese chapter 8 of the Gospel of John, Jesus saves an adulterous woman from being stoned to death by a crowd, proclaiming, "He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her." But according to the Hudson Institute, this happens in the Chinese version. The crowd wanted to stone the woman to death as per their law, but Jesus said, "Let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone." Hearing this, They slipped away one by one. When the crowd disappeared, Jesus stoned the sinner to death, saying, I too am a sinner, but if the law could only be executed by men without blemish, the law would be dead. Bad ass. He sounds like Dirty Harry. The only issue is, to quote every Redditor, they're either in a conversation they desperately want to ruin or eating something healthy they desperately want to ruin. Fourth. Well, the Bible being rewritten seems to come from the headline of an article written by a Republican Congressman, Mike Gallagher. But even he acknowledges it wasn't the Bible. It was part of some uni textbook. According to the original source of the story, it was like one university textbook available in a certain province, in a country of 1.4 billion people. Imagine if you extended that logic to other countries. I mean, there's some pretty woke unis in America. You may as well be saying Joe Biden rewrote the Bible. People do say it, and it's probably more true.
So recently, for the Transgender Day of Visibility, President Joe Biden put out a video about the issue. What he did is what false teachers do. He took part of scripture and then he twisted it to mean something else.
Well, look at what they're teaching our kids now. No difference between female and male skeletons. What about the penis, libtards? Sorry, that was a massive detour, but it is terrifying, the direction of Australia's former PMs. In a few short years, we went from Kevin Rudd, who after leaving office completed a PhD on Xi Jinping and advised the US on how to prevent World War III with China, to Scomo, who refuses to leave Parliament and at the same time is working for a think tank, which is just a front for America's worst foreign policy extremists. Look at this article. Could Israel become Europe's new arsenal of democracy? And look, if you're one of those boomers that drunk way too much in the 70s and 80s that your brain got permanently stuck there, thus you still think we're in the Cold War, so you're happy about an ex-PM working for a think tank that gently pushes for a nuclear holocaust? Let me convince you that this is no good with much more convincing methods of persuasion. The Hudson Institute takes money from Bill Gates. Uh-oh, he's infiltrating Australia too. Scomo better not tell his QAnon mates that. Well, at least Scomo isn't a loser neat. We know he's the type of guy that'll only ever get caught up on one side of the Robo-Debt Royal Commission. He's addicted to the grind. He got yet another side hustle as an advisor to the Centre for New American Security, a think tank as soulless as the name, and the fact that it hired Scott Morrison suggests. Further enraging Scomo's QAnon mates, the Centre for New American Security is basically the more democratic faction of the war with China think tank crowd. It's funded by the usual crowd of arms dealers, foreign governments, fossil fuel companies. Look, that's to be expected, and it's nothing new. It played some war games with Mike Gallagher, same guy who wrote the article about China rewriting the Bible. Crazy! You wouldn't believe the conclusion they came to. The USA needs to arm Taiwan to the teeth. Still, kind of second-rate roles for an ex-prime minister. Which got me thinking, maybe with all the scandals that engulf both his prime ministership and post-prime ministership, it really is hard for Scomo to get a respectable job outside of a few board positions in one industry. And that industry is talking about how mad a war with China would be. But we don't want one. We don't want one. But if we did have one. Which gets me to my main conspiratorial point. AUKUS was for Scomo's fucking resume. Not really conspiratorial because of course there were other larger reasons, but I imagine that Turnbull wouldn't be pushing for it, right? He's too into Macron to fuck over the French on a sub deal. Moreover, if we're going to be parking subs obstructing my view of the harbour, they need to be of a lovely European design, not those garish American models. I mean, look at this post from Scomo earlier this year. I commend the government and welcome the announcements made today that take the first step to realising the historic AUKUS agreement we conceived and established in government 18 months ago in September 2021. The initiatives announced today are appropriately ambitious and consistent with the original aspiration, direction and intentions of the AUKUS founders. Remember, I'm the founder of it. I'm like John Curtin. He's so keen to paint himself as a founder. But maybe that's fair. Before AUKUS, it was a fringe view, even for China hawks, to suggest that Australia needed nuclear subs. I genuinely think Scomo wanting to wedge Labor at the 2022 election and needing the legacy to fluff his resume is a significant reason Australia could be pulled into a nuclear war in the future. Obviously, the cogs now are in motion, and the USA and the Brits are very keen on Australia giving them the dole. $368 billion of it, and worse. There isn't going to be any robo-debt to claw any of that back. But that was just a look at what the humble backbencher from the Shire's been up to. Being found by a royal commission to have given them untrue evidence, causing a constitutional crisis, taking business trips to Japan during sitting weeks of Parliament, then giving his 2 cents on China, even losing an election, couldn't stop him enshrining his legacy as the least impressive PM Australia's ever had. Chuck that one on your resume, mate. Get your tickets to my live show about my defo case. It's in these cities here. Look on the screen. Look, it's rotating. Wow. Like and subscribe.